I am very proud to introduce to you our group from the University of Santo Tomas Institute of Physical Education and Athletics, Bachelor of Science, major in Fitness and Sports Management, from 4FSMB. Our group is composed of Angela T. Alferez, Jaime Joaquin N. Bernardo, Enrique P. Caunan Jr., Cecil F. Data, Cristel G. Lubanco, and Rizalinda E. Martin. We will be presenting to you our thesis proposal which entitled The Push Despite the Pull, the Grit and Resilience of the Selected UST Student Athlete in an Online Training Environment. On the 11th of March 2020, the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus disease 2019 as a pandemic. Bassett Jones et al. 2020. In response to the outbreak and to reduce the number of infected individuals, physical distancing and stay-at-home policies were implemented in many countries. Non-essential businesses that might cause a high-risk transmission like gyms and sports facilities were closed. To decrease the number of people outside their homes, online transactions were also encouraged. Aside from these measures, in-person classes at all levels of schooling were canceled together with accompanying extracurricular and athletic activities. The varsity teams of school also had their athletic training moved online. In the Philippines, the University Athletic Association of the Philippines announced the cancellation of its 83rd season and citing the needs to ensure the health and safety of the student athletes and those involved in the operations of the league. Spin PH 2020. After the cancellation of numerous sporting events, many student athletes had experienced powerful grief, anger and resentment and uncertainty, and of no control over the situation, had undergone a lot of anxiety. However, despite these difficulties that athletes in general and student athletes in particular are experiencing because of the pandemic, it is evident that these athletes are adapting in terms of their physical and mental skills training. Gupta and McCarthy 2021. This study seeks to analyze the grit and resilience of selected UST student athletes. It is worth nothing to look how they keep themselves on the right path towards the achievement of their goal and how they are striving to maintain the peak levels of mental and physical health despite the lack of access to different resources and facilities.
The idea of grit is best explained by the grit theory of Duckworth et al. 2007, which states grit as perseverance and passion for long-term goals. Goal attainment consistent of interest, perseverance of effort, and passion are all included in construct of that may differentiate successful from less successful athletes. Ruchberg et al. 2020. Duckworth and Quinn 2009 investigated that ability of grit to differentiate individual retention in specific programs with varying population through multiple studies. The results showed that grittier adults were more likely to pursue further educations, had a slim chance to withdraw from military training programs, were more likely to keep their jobs, and more likely to stay married. When compared to less gritty individuals, the grittier one allotted more time for deliberate practice. Duckworth et al. 2011. The inherent attribute of grit is resilience, Stoffel and Kane 2018. Resilience pertains to an individual ability to bounce back after experiencing stress. Wald et al. 2006. Kodanhato et al. 2018 also said that for athletes, resilience is considered to be an essential characteristic to deal with and overcome demands in competition sport. With the pandemic that everyone is experiencing now and the online training that athletes are engaged in due to restriction, it is worth looking at how it affects the grit and resilience of student athletes.
The research paradigm. The research paradigm for the study follows the input, process, and output or ITO model. The input includes the demographic information from the participants, such as their age, gender, and sports or event. It will also contain their scores from two inventories that the researchers will administer to get their scores on the grit and resilience. These inventories are the short grit scale and the Canard-Davidson resilience scale, respectively. The process phase explains the method that researchers will use to gather data from the participants. As the study is quantitative and descriptive, a feasible method to gather data is through the administration of a survey, which will be via online means. The data that will collected will be subjective to specific and appropriate statistical analysis and interpretation. Finally, the output phase will include the answers to the researchers' questions and conclusions from the study, which primarily tries to determine the levels of grit and resilience of collegiate student athletes in an online training environment.
This study utilizes the descriptive correlational research design, which is a type of research describes variables and relationships that happen naturally between and among them. Sosa et al. 2007. To gather data about the levels of grit and resilience of the participants in the context of an online training environment described in terms of their means and correlational statistical treatment is applied to see if there is a significant relationship between the grit and resilience of the selected UST student athlete in the current context. The participants of this study are the 101 selected collegiate student athletes from the University of Santo Tomas who are enrolled during the special term of academic year 2020 and 2021, and the first term of academic year 2021 to 2022, and are participating in online training. The UST collegiate athletes were asked to participate in the study. Their demographic information, such as their age, gender, and sports or event, are gathered in the study.
As the data gathered from the participants of the study, these are the following results. So for the demographics gathered from 101 UST student athletes, Table 1 shows that the majority of the respondents were males with 66 or 65.3% of the respondents, while 35 respondents were females, which makes up 34.7% of the respondents. And according to the table, a huge part of the respondents come from both the football team, which makes up of 27 or 26.7% of the respondents, and the judo team, which makes up of 21 or 21.8% of the respondents. On the other hand, the least number of respondents is shared by two sports, specifically basketball and table tennis, with only 3 or 3% of the respondents, with a total of 100% of the respondents. And now for the analysis and interpretation of data, it has been organized and divided according to each of the research questions. For the research question 1 in table 2, answered the question, what are the grit levels of the respondents? It shows the mean scores for the grit levels of UST student athletes. Item number 4, which states, I am a hard worker, got the highest score of 4.01. Next is item 7, I finish whatever I begin, with a score of 3.88. And then item 8, I am diligent, with a score of 3.86. The participants also displayed the lowest mean score of 3.05 on both items. Number 5, I often set a goal but later choose to pursue a different one. And 6, I have a difficulty maintaining my focus on projects that take more than a few months to complete. Followed by item 1, new ideas and projects sometimes distract me from previous ones. 3.21. Results show that the participants got high mean scores in areas relating to their hard work, commitment, and diligence. We believe that having these traits is one of the main reasons they made it to their respective teams. Being an athlete is not just about talent, you also need pure hard work, commitment, and diligence. Duckworth and colleagues 2007 stated that grit entails working strenuously towards challenges, maintaining effort and interest over years despite failure, adversity, and the places in progress. It is self-discipline combined with a passionate commitment to a task and a burning desire to see it through. Shoemake 2016. However, modern mean scores from Table 2 were shown by items pertaining to sudden change of goals and distraction from new ideas by the participants, and stating that majority of the respondents are all gritty individuals. For the research question 2 in Table 3, answer the question, what are the resilience levels of the respondents? Table shows that the resilience levels of UST student athletes in an online training environment. The highest weighted mean was reported in item number 6, which is believe I can achieve my goal despite obstacles, followed by item 5, bounce back after illness or injury. And item number 9, think of myself as a strong person when facing challenges. With a mean scores of 4.26, 3.97, and 3.94 respectively. The said group also demonstrated a low mean score of 2.93 in item 4. Stress makes me stronger, followed by item 10, able to handle unpleasant feelings, and item 8, not easily discouraged by failure, with a mean score of 3.59 and 3.61 respectively. Results show that the participants got high mean scores in areas demonstrating the achievement of goals despite obstacles, being able to bounce back after an illness or injury, and thinking of oneself as strong persons when they are facing challenges. The study of Luther, Sicchetti, and Becker 2000 stated that the resilience refers to the positive adaptation in the face of stress or trauma. The ability of maintaining good functioning after stress exposure appears more common than previously thought, Bonanno 2004, and therefore studying resilience is important for achieving a comprehensive understanding of human responses to stress and trauma.
Question 3, Table 4. Is there a significant relationship between grit and resilience? It shows that there was no significant relationship between the two variables of grit and resilience. As the p-value is greater than the 0.05 level of significance, the null hypothesis is accepted. Thus, there is a significant relationship between grit and resilience of the UST student athletes in an online training environment. The previous study of Gupta and Sudesh 2019 found that there was no significant relationship between grit, resilience, and self-regulation among college football players. But this previous study was done before the pandemic, having respondents with different demographics, family background, support system, and environment. But at the present study, having respondents, having football players as the major respondents, there is a huge possibility that football players have a different perspective compared to other participants. Online training is viewed as a challenge, therefore testing the respondents' resilience. Since there is no correlation between grit and resilience, the lack of resilience does not necessarily affect one's grit in achieving their long-term goals. According to Matthews 2020, grit is an important factor of resilience, but should not be thought of as the only or even the primary contributor to resilience in the face of adversity. Other factors like strength of character, personality traits, lifestyle habits, social and family environment, and even genetics contribute to how well one fares in the face of life's obstacles. In conclusion, a lot of previous research has explored aspects of grit as applied in sports, but in normal circumstances, grit during the COVID-19 pandemic proves to still be less researched. This current study sought to fill that gap in the research literature. And based on the findings of this research, respondents have shown a relatively high mean score in the short grit scale. The meaning that was generated can be verbally interpreted as mostly like me, which indicates the presence of passion and perseverance for long-term goal attainment and safety behavior. This type of behaviors would definitely play as an essential role in influencing sports performance and safety behaviors the moment actual competition is allowed. However, it must also be admitted that it is indeed challenging for athletes, more so with student athletes, to maintain grit, which consists of consistency, interest, passion, and perseverance to attain long-term goals during the unprecedented time of the COVID-19 pandemic. This Julian and Hogarth 2021. This study also hopefully added to the conversation on how collegiate student athletes must possess or develop the essential characteristics needed to persist and eventually be successful in the dynamic world of online programs, such as online training. The study also examined the reality of adversity felt by collegiate student athletes during the COVID-19 lockdowns and the process they underwent as they adapted to the situation. The study also further proved that student athletes are and will continue to demonstrate grit and resilience as they navigate this entirely new terrain of online training, bubble trainings, and bubble competitions. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought about a huge impact on their lives, but they continue to march on and pursue their passion.
Recommendation. Researchers recommend further study on this topic concerning grit and resilience of coaches, trainers, and coaching staff in an online training environment to further evaluate the effectiveness of online coaching in this new normal setup. The researchers recommend further study on the topic, but some changes in some of the variables, such as looking also at constructs like mental toughness, length of engagement in the sport, religiosity, and variation in the instruments that were used. The researchers are recommend further study on the topic about the impact of the pandemic, not just the collegiate student athletes, but also the fitness and sports management students who took up internship programs via the online method. The researchers recommend further study on the topic concerning not just the student athletes' psychological condition, but also their physical condition in terms of agility, strength, muscular endurance, and cardiovascular endurance. The researchers recommend further study on the topic about the effectiveness of the bubble training to the athletic performance of student athletes. The researchers recommend further on the topic about the effectiveness of the bubble training to athletic performance of student athletes. The researchers also recommend that authorities in government, community, school, and other institutions focus not just on physical but more so on the mental health of the collegiate student athletes, as the pandemic has dramatically caused change in how individuals view the things that play a major role in their lives. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and may God bless us always.